This man is the worst husband on the internet. Hello, you gorgeous donuts. Today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest family channels or couple channels, but also the most controversial. Matt and Abby are one of the biggest couple influencers on the internet, and they've been famous for like a decade now. On every single platform, they have millions of people that love and adore them. Even on YouTube, they have 8 million subscribers, which is genuinely insane. Like, do you know the level you need to get to 8 million? They also have a very successful podcast together, which does huge numbers, which later on we're going to get into how controversial that is. But one of the most interesting things about Matt and Abby is they seem to have a fan base that would almost die for them. Like, the amount of love that their fans give them is off the chart. Now, in this video, we're going to discuss how they managed to amass this strong fan base, the background of how they got together, and how they basically created a media monster. We're then going to talk about how they also became arguably the most hated couple on the internet, where there's been actual Reddit threads dedicated to criticizing them, which has over 100,000 posts. Get comfy, we're diving in. Now, Matt and Abby on their rise first gained a massive audience by doing relatable videos which people kind of looked at and found very wholesome. They could see themselves in them.
Making my husband go to Victoria's Secret with me.
Like, I can relate to this, right? Every single time that I have to go into an underwear shop with my girlfriend, I'm like the most uncomfortable man on the planet, and I don't know why. I feel like everyone's looking at me. I get like main character syndrome. Everybody knows that I don't wear the items that's in this shop, so why am I here? It's like every single time I go in Primark with Chloe and she's looking at the underwear bit, I just like keep my head down like this. I'm like, yeah, I know I shouldn't be here. Like, I know I'm not a freak, I'm not a perv, I promise. I'm not here by choice. Now, they would constantly post everyday videos like this, and obviously this is going to amass such a huge audience because everybody can kind of look at them videos and relate to them. However, not many couple influencers managed to kind of break through the seal of really having a dedicated audience that kind of watch anything they do. And I really feel like Matt and Abby achieved this because of how much access they give their audience. Like, nothing is kept in private. Every little thing of their lives is recorded and put on the internet, which obviously makes you gain such a strong connection with your audience. But also it means that you're giving up all of your privacy and everybody knows everything about your business, which can only be a bad thing in my opinion. Like, every little thing about their lives they share with everybody. Nothing is private between them two. I remember when they were announcing a pregnancy they had, Matt found out at the same time as like the audience.
Are you serious? Honey, oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! Are you serious? Oh my goodness! I thought you were decorating the house for Christmas or something. I didn't know what you were doing. Are you serious?
Now, obviously, this video in isolation seems really wholesome. And, like, if you didn't know these two, you'd be like, oh, this is really cute. Personally, I don't think it's something that I would ever record and put online. Like, I would want that to be between me and my partner rather than like everybody else. Like, I can tell everyone else about it after, but the actual announcement or like finding out, I feel like that's, you know, that's like a special moment between the both of you. But obviously, if this is your job, you're influencers and you can monetize this is arguably one of the biggest things you can monetize. Why have that as a special moment for the both of you when you don't get paid for it? That's what I'm saying. That makes it no longer special. And after they have their babies, they basically film every single little moment. I do kind of find this funny because obviously if you're like a parent as well and you're going through this same stage of having a baby, I imagine you would find some comfort in this, you know, like you can kind of relate to two people who are going through something you are. And I know, like, you know, when having a baby, a lot of people can feel lonely. I understand that, but I just find it hilarious how his baby's crying, and before he sorts the baby crying, he just like sets his camera up and he's like, okay, so does everyone know that I look after my baby now? Okay, now I can actually feed it. It's the fact he decided to set the camera up before he could actually get the lid off the bottle. But at this point, when I was researching for this video, I didn't really understand why everybody says that Matt is the most hated husband on the internet and these two are the most hated couple, because I could kind of see little things, but I didn't really understand why people literally want these people to just get off the internet. Because the more I was researching and finding out that these two have been together since they were actually in the 8th grade, I was kind of finding it, you know, kind of cute.
Has anyone ever told you your high school relationship is gonna fail? Well,
like, you can see clearly they've been kind of like childhood sweethearts, and now they're kind of, you know, filming their lives and living their lives, you know, doing arguably like a dream job. It's quite wholesome, and it's also like not many people can like live this life, so they might live like kind of through them too. However, the more I started to kind of, you know, research into them, the more kind of cracks that were showing. I remember seeing a clip of them two saying that no matter what happens in their relationship, they can't get divorced.
For us, like, divorce is just not on the table. It's not an option. I think people go into marriage thinking divorce is an option. That's why they kind of work themselves towards divorce subconsciously.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's very valid reasons for divorce. There's so many different circumstances that could, like, that totally validate those people's situations. But for us, and in our relationship, I think that the reason we're able to have a strong marriage, that doesn't mean that we don't have conflict, we don't have weak spots. It's because we both believe in the commitment we made.
Now, obviously, that's a very nice sentiment that, you know, you get into marriage because you never want to break up. Obviously, that's the aim. But I do think the fact that they say that no matter what happens, they won't get divorced, you are putting a lot of pressure on the relationship, because it kind of means that, you know, if one person goes out and cheats 10 times, you still have to stay together because, you know, divorce isn't a thing. I just feel like it's kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm off on this one, but just ruling out splitting out entirely, especially when you have children. It might be for the better happiness of the children if you two were so unhappy that, you know, splitting up is just better for them. Now, at this point, I was seeing more and more podcast clips that were kind of making me question these two and making me think possibly they weren't the two saints that they paint themselves out to be. There was little red flags such as Abby talking about what other people decide to name their children.
I'm gonna be honest with you, it does kind of bug me. Some of the names that are out there nowadays are just like so off the wall. I'm like, you know, your child is going to grow up and be an adult and potentially work in a professional setting.
I completely agree. If you name your kid a name that's really cute for a kid, but then they don't have a name that could be an adult name, that is scary.
And also, some people are like so proud of, like, I don't know anyone named this name and I'm naming my kid that. I'm like, that might not be the flex that you think it is. That might be a red flag.
Now, whether you agree with that or not, I feel like it is pretty, I don't know if it's hypocritical, but just for context, they've named their children Griffin and August, who they actually called Augie. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone was in my school and they were called Augie, I don't know if school would have went that well for them. My school was fairly cruel on people that had anything that was, you know, a little bit different to other people. I'm sorry, like, if you're calling out other people for what they name their children, you can't name your children Augie. Come on, not August still. But I just found this clip really interesting because up until this point, they're very much kind of in their own bubble, not like kind of saying anything negative at all. But sometimes I feel like you do see a little bit of a mask slip where you're like, oh, okay, these people actually do care a lot about, like, other people's lives. And maybe it's this mask that they put up that they're like the perfect couple, maybe isn't, you know, fairly true. I don't know why you would put any energy into caring what someone else names their child, you know? I would have no issue with what they've chose to name their children. It's just the fact that they're calling out other people for what they choose to name their children, which is why you should face the criticism for your own. Now, these two clips that I've just shown you don't even scratch the surface of the amount of controversy that this couple have created. Like I said, at this point in the video, they definitely look like a young couple, you know, navigating life with their children, being married, and they kind of look aspirational in a way. However, this aspirational aspect of wanting to be like Matt and Abby definitely faded as people found so much controversy out about them. Like I said in the intro, whole Reddit threads have been made about hating on them, which, bearing in mind, has 22,000 weekly visitors. Like, that is a hell of a lot on Reddit. And the more you scroll down this thread, the more you realise that, like, other influencers have been calling them out as well. Like, like I watched this clip from Trisha Paytas, who says that she genuinely hates them. Now, honestly, I wouldn't really kind of, use Trisha Paytas' opinion on anything to back anything up, but I do find it interesting that other influencers are calling them out so publicly. And with what I'm about to reveal to you as we go on in this video, you're going to see why. Now, one of their biggest controversies that first got them a lot of notoriety is their cruise incident. Now, Matt and Abby decided to go on a cruise on holiday, and they actually took both their sons, who are aged 1 and 2. And whilst they were away, Abby was posting things saying how she was overstimulated on holiday. I actually think that's all I have for you today. I am currently in that phase of family vacation where I am extremely overstimulated and questioning why I thought it was a good idea to cram into a tiny cabin on a boat and mess up our little human schedules for 7 days. But I'm thinking that once we get more settled, I'll perk right up, keep you updated. So very clearly, this holiday might not have been going the positive way that she thought. And Abby actually later revealed that she was leaving both of her sons, by the way, aged 1 and 2, in the cabin room whilst Matt and Abby were going to go out for dinner together on the cruise. Now, she decided to post this publicly. I don't understand why. I don't understand why you would do it in the first place, but telling everybody this? Why'd you tell everybody everything? Why would you think this would be a good idea? Now, obviously, this is just not a safe thing to do, even if you are on a cruise in the middle of, the ocean somewhere. People go missing on cruises. There's various documentaries about this. Also, have you never heard of Madeleine McCann? Don't leave your children alone in the room when you're going somewhere else on holiday, even if you are just a few feet away. Now, Abby posted this now deleted post on Instagram saying, so we ended up taking them for 5 nights, and it became apparent that they weren't enjoying it, and therefore we weren't either. So then we switched our dinner time to after their bedtime and FaceTimed the monitors while we ate. Abby also said that apparently regular baby monitors don't work on the cruise ship unless you're only 10 feet away, which is why they resorted to FaceTime instead, and that worked out much better for everyone. Now, obviously, after they posted this, numerous people were making TikToks and calling them out, rightly so, saying, why would you leave your children, in the room alone? This makes no sense. Surely, you don't want them to get kidnapped. Also, with them being in the public eye, you get loads of weirdos like stalkers and people that know too much out about you. You don't know if somebody has actually booked that cruise ship at the same time as you because you post everything and you tell everybody where you're going to be at a certain time. Someone could easily do that, and I know I'm kind of really going away with the fairies with theorizing here, but I feel like you need to take all precautions, especially when you're in the public eye like this, especially when you have children. And I also think they got a lot more backlash because they kind of paint themselves out as if, they are the perfect parents and they can kind of do no wrong as well, which is why, obviously people are going to jump on this even more. Now, other people have argued that they possibly did this for rage bait purposes. People have kind of said that Matt and Abby can be guilty of rage baiting to create engagement. However, they actually did go out to dinner, so I don't know why, that's not rage bait at that point if you're actually doing the act. If you're lying about doing it, that's rage bait. But actually doing it, you can't blame it on rage bait at that point. That's just kind of being neglectful. I'm going to leave my kids unattended and everyone's going to get really annoyed at that. Oh my god, I've just rage baited you. What? Take that. Can you hold this for us? There you go. That's for you. Now, this kind of took over the internet, so Matt and Abby actually decided to do one of their first ever apology videos.
Hey everybody, we usually would not be making a video like this, but there is information circulating about us that is completely untrue. So we just wanted to set the record straight, clear the air, because we take our role as parents extremely seriously. And we love our children more than anything in the entire world. And we're very protective of our kids. So we just got back from a 7-night cruise with Abby's extended family. And this was everyone from Abby's grandma, our children's great grandma, to our 1 and 2-year-old. And so where this whole controversy started, I guess, is a few days ago, Abby posted on her Instagram story that we were at dinner FaceTiming the baby monitors while our children were asleep in their staterooms. And people started to speculate and believe that we had left our children alone in their staterooms. And that is just completely untrue because we had someone with our children at all times on this boat, period.
I can see where my story did lead to misunderstanding, which is why I ended up deleting it several hours after posting it, is because I could see that it was causing concern and misunderstanding. And I do want to say thank you so much to those of you that were concerned about the safety and well-being of our children.
Definitely knew in private they would have been like, why the f*** is everyone saying this? Everyone just shut up, man.
Main concern. But to know that other people share those same concerns for our precious boys, it really means a lot. So thank you. But I do want to clarify that we have not, would not, will not ever leave our children unattended. We would never ever want to put them in harm's way in any way. I do want to clear up the baby monitor situation. Our children sleep in these blackout tents every single night, whether or not we're traveling or if we're just home. And a feature of these tents is they have a spot for a sound machine and a spot for a monitor. And even if we are sleeping in the exact same room as our boys, we always turn their monitor on so we can watch and see what's happening inside the tent, make sure they're okay, see if they've fallen asleep or if they've woken up. We just love to have eyes on them. We're always concerned about them. And so that's why even when we would, tag team and take turns at family dinner, we would turn on FaceTime so we could also have eyes on them as their parents.
Now, when I saw this apology, I definitely kind of thought that made sense, but a lot of people were saying, like, that's very convenient that now, there was a person in the room at the time you didn't say this. Like, obviously, it's a great kind of alibi or excuse to say, like, there's no evidence someone was in the room, but you kind of just have to take their word for it. You would like to think that there was someone from their extended family that was there. Like, to me, this makes sense, but to a lot of people, they still don't believe that they're telling the truth. But I think the biggest thing that should be taken out of this situation is that even though you can monetize your relationship and monetize your family life, I honestly don't believe it's worth the amount of eyes that you put onto your family, because it just makes everything so much more intense. And you've got to think about the children. Like, this is the one thing that these couples never do. They never put their children first. They just put their, like, monetary kind of goals first and just becoming as rich as possible, because a lot of the people kind of theorize that, well, if I become as rich as possible from this, then I'm kind of doing this for the children. But in reality, they're not doing it for the children, because the children are exposed to so much scrutiny from a young age, and when they grow up, they're always going to have moments like this that kind of like hang over their head. They might go to school and their schoolmates might bring it up, or people like bullies, or they're always going to have people talking about what happened in their childhood that they had no kind of control over. Now, some people have actually came out in the comments of this apology video and said, I was across their room on the cruise. I can confirm that they did leave their children in the room alone. Now, obviously, this is like, someone on a YouTube comment, like, you have no idea if they're telling the truth. They can just be saying this to create more hatred, or they very well could have been across the thing. But again, it's just, it's so hard to kind of theorize if this is actually true or not. Also, people have argued that, just FaceTiming your children isn't enough kind of protection. And also, like, where was this other person? We've never seen this other person, any of the photos or anything regarding the room. Overall, I just don't know why they felt like they needed to share that they were doing this. But overall, even if there was somebody that was in the room with them, I don't know why they felt like they needed to share this. Like, you don't need to share every single intricate detail of your life. You can keep some things in private. Why don't people understand this? Now, like you've just seen, Matt and Abby share absolutely every intricate detail online, like to the very inch of detail. And another point where they came under controversy, and mainly Matt in this case, is after Abby gave birth. Matt posted this TikTok and it came under so much scrutiny.
We didn't have the best time at the hospital. My wife was ready to leave the same day she gave birth.
I get that he's talking like we, a couple, but I love that he's included himself in that. Like, we didn't have the best time. Honestly, like, I think my wife was like pushing a human out of her me, like, honestly, I went to the vending machine, my coke got stuck. We didn't have the best time, is what I'm trying to say. We were both trying to get something out that wasn't coming out.
Staff said that the minimum stay for a C-section was 48 hours. It put our marriage to the test. It was sleep deprived, and my wife was dealing with the intense hormone change that happens postpartum. But worst of all, there was breastfeeding, which really caused us to butt heads. It was really important to my wife that she breastfed our baby, but it was really important to me that our baby got fed.
Abby's not that arsed about, feeding the baby. Abby really wants to breastfeed the baby, but for me, it's really important that my baby gets fed. Yeah, do you not think that's what she's trying to do? That's what breastfeeding is, right? You're feeding the baby. Is Abby honestly trying to be like, you know what, I actually want my baby to starve? Like, that's just kind of what we were really butting heads. Abby didn't want the baby to eat. I did. It's also funny how he previously said that the C-section caused a real rift in his marriage. Like, he's basically making everything about himself. Like, all of the things that has caused his wife immense pain, he's like, yeah, it was really hard for me, actually. It just took its toll, I don't quite know how I got through it myself, if I'm being honest. That's gonna be me. When my girlfriend's giving birth, I'm gonna be like, sorry, can someone think about me in this situation, please? I'm not having the best of times either. I do want to know what he means by, the C-section putting his marriage to the test. I really want to know the ins and outs of that statement. I also just think, as soon as your wife has give birth, you don't need to make a TikTok, vlogging everything. Like, you can just, make sure you're are both okay, go home and then talk about it. Like, why do you need to record it in live time? I don't understand. I know a lot of people do this and it's a thing and it's something you can monetize, you know, just having a baby, you know it's going to get loads of views. That's the main reason why they do it. If this didn't get views, they wouldn't film this. But sometimes I think, is it really worth the money that you're going to get? Now, after him and Abby actually returned home from having the baby, Matt would often post videos where he's basically filming himself doing things that a husband should do.
With Abby recovering from surgery, our house became extremely messy, extremely fast. That meant that I needed to put on my big boy pants and get to work.
Gotta put your big boy pants on, just pick up some tissues. Yeah. Why is he holding his nose? He's like a child, like... I find the concept hilarious when you keep remembering that he's got to set his camera up to do this. He's like, okay, I've got to clean the house, but if I don't film it, then it didn't happen, did it? So, just there we go.
One really good thing that's come out of Abby having the surgery is it's really made me appreciate her more. She does a lot for me, and the surgery has forced her to put all of that on pause.
That's another interesting thing. It's like, so obviously he mustn't even tidy up after himself or anything. Like, when Abby is out of, her usual kind of mode, you actually see what the house is like and how much she actually probably does for him. And I feel like a lot of people get into these relationships where they're basically like almost like you can end up being your partner's slave, I guess. Like, it's kind of, been proven to us that this is the type of relationship they have.
That means that I've had to take on all the tasks around the house that she would normally do. Now, I did have help from Abby's mom with taking care of Griffin, and we have had friends that have been making us meals. But with taking on all of Abby's household duties in addition to taking care of her, it's been a lot.
But I'm not trying to deny that this would be very stressful, because I can imagine it is. But the footage she's showing us of the worst thing is just, cleaning the baby's bottles, where you basically just put it in the sterilizer, and also just cleaning bowls and putting them away. Like, it's that the stuff he's showing us isn't that deep, really. It's stuff that I do on a daily basis. Obviously, he's got to, look after his wife as well. I understand that. But I just feel like he's doing this for attention. He wants people to know that he's kind of like the perfect husband. Now, you might think, this is just a one-off video. However, every single time he cleans up, he films it, which I just find hilarious.
Because I'm not typically the one that does it. And don't be fooled by me taking care of my son, because most of the time my wife does that too.
Nice. No, that's cool. So basically, like, your wife looks after the baby 24/7 and also does everything else 24/7. What do you do? Like, what does this guy actually do? Just influences people? Is that just his full-time job? I've got no idea.
And I wanted to surprise her with a clean house when she got home. In our relationship, we naturally take on more traditional marital roles, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, that's a nice present, actually. Just making sure the house is clean. That's actually the best present you can get your partner. Anyone watching this, I feel like instead of buy your partner something for Christmas, just clean the house. Just like pick up the tissues and stuff. That is the best gift you can get them. Now, moving on, this is still not really scratching the surface of the amount of controversy this couple have had over the years. Most of their controversy comes from their podcast clips, as, it's very easy to pretend to be someone else on a TikTok or on short form media, because you can cut it up and you really can just show people what you want to show them. When you see people have a podcast, that's when you actually learn who they are. You see it many times with like couple podcasts, that you will find that they don't look like they actually like each other a lot of the time. I'm seeing like loads of clips from like couple podcasts where you're like, are these two actually in a relationship? Like, they don't seem to get on. And that has been the case very much so with Matt and Abby. Like, we're gonna go through some of these clips here, and some of them are genuinely wild. There was one time where he talked about how Abby's, bits have changed since she's given birth.
Does it feel different down there after birth?
Yeah, actually. I feel like it goes back, but it doesn't go back to exactly how
Yeah,
it was
we
before.
talked about this the other day, and I was kind of surprised to hear you say that, because you never told me until I asked you.
I always heard, it goes back to normal, but it doesn't go back to exactly the way it was before.
So, maybe I shouldn't go into too much detail.
We can
You
say whatever.
still like it after?
I still like it, of course.
You like it as much?
I would say so.
It doesn't sound very...
I think I like it pretty good.
Bro, I've never wanted to just like hit my head off this metal pole so much. As of right now, make of that what you will. Why would you say this? Also, you definitely don't realise a difference. I'm sorry. This is obviously going to make her feel so insecure. And the fact he kept playing on it as well. It's almost like he got off on her insecurity. You saw her face there. She was not comfortable and she tried to change the subject. Also, this shows the weird audience you curate that they would ask a question like that in the first place. Like, he's talking about her bits as if it's like when Lucasade got the sugar removed. Yeah, it's still alright, but it's not the same, is it? I mean, I can deal with it, but it's it's not like it was back then. This is crazy. It's even the fact that she said, yeah, we talked about this like the other day, so he's actually brought this up to her in private as well. Just shows that it's not just for the podcast, it's not rage bait. And it's clips like this that do make me think, you know, when they've ruled out divorce, obviously this is just going to make him think that he can say whatever he wants to say without receiving any repercussions or without the threat of Abby leaving him. It just creates a bit of a toxic culture. There's also this clip where Matt talks about being attracted to the opposite of what Abby is.
Is he a butt or boobs guy?
Boobs all the way, baby.
That is so messed up.
Why is that messed up?
It's not messed
Wouldn't
up.
that be a problem if I was a butt guy?
We're gonna go fight off camera. Morning or at night?
Oh man.
I know what you're gonna say.
I think the morning
Yeah.
and at night. Okay.
Clean shaven or hairy?
I mean, I almost like a little bit of hair.
Okay. If any of you guys don't know, I got laser hair removal.
Like, you know, some answers you're like, are they taking the piss here? Or genuinely does he think this? Because I think he actually thinks this, but he says it as a joke. Unless he's just got a very, very weird comedic kind of timing. Like, you can see Abby wasn't comfortable with any of his answers. I think in isolation, you can look at this video and be like, oh, this is possibly a joke. But when you're constantly seeing this pattern of behaviour, you're like, okay, this is clearly just not a joke anymore. Like, he just kind of hates his wife.
I'm a 200-pound man. You're a woman that's like, what, 115, 120?
No, I'm more than that.
Okay.
I'm not ashamed of my weight.
How much do you weigh?
I'm like 123, a little bit more, like 123 and a half.
What's crazy is we almost eat the same amount of food.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense. I'm almost double the size of you. I'm a foot taller than you. Your calves, I'm pretty sure, are bigger than my calf muscles.
They are too.
That is something that I've been working on in the gym. I'm trying to build up my bigger calves.
Have you ever thought about point dancing?
I have not. I used to take ballet. We did ballet together in college.
Again, just kind of, you know, kind of subtly being like, you eat a lot, don't you? You ever thought about that? Eat a bloody lot. Right, so go into your calves, love. Just letting you know. Right, got bigger calves than me. He's just like kind of saying it without saying it.
I just find you very attractive.
Yeah, I find you very attractive
And
too.
there was a time where I did not.
Same.
Isn't that so funny how our brain can do that, though?
Yes.
It's so crazy. And that's also why you shouldn't marry someone for looks.
Bingo.
Like, I sound like such a hypocrite because I'm saying that and I'm married to, like, such a hot man. Like, such a good-looking man. Such a hot, buzzed man.
This is a hot, bald guy.
I'm just saying you shouldn't marry for looks because they're going to look a lot different.
You just can't convince me that these two are attracted to each other. I know some people do say that, you know, when you've been married for a hell of a long time, you can go through phases, I guess, where, you know, people say like you dip in and out of like fancying your partner. I obviously never experienced that, but they're very young. You know, they've been married for a matter of like, I think less than 10 years or something. Like, the fact that they already went through this stage is concerning. It just shows, do they actually fancy? I don't know. Try not to get too kind of parasocial here. Now you're probably thinking that's the end of the controversy. I've got more. Do you want more? I've got more. A clip that recently went viral this year was Matt admitting that they no longer sleep together. Shockingly, you know, obviously as they fancy the pants off each other.
Super embarrassing, but I've been sleeping in our walk-in closet for the past month now. This is our guest bedroom mattress that I dragged all the way from our guest bedroom into here, and my wife's not a huge fan of this arrangement.
Why? Bearing in mind, like, they have a huge house and you can just sleep in the guest bedroom. Why are you sleeping in the closet? I do find it funny how he's basically, like, set the camera as a bird's eye view and, like, decided to record this as if it's kind of poetic in a way, when in reality it's just kind of strange. I know some couples do, you know, sleep in different bedrooms, especially when they've got younger children. I think it helps with, like, sleep, you know?
Obviously, I don't know a spouse that would be stoked. This decision that I made was something I had to do just to prioritize my mental health because I was not okay. I was really struggling. I was feeling awful, and that's why I'm here.
So, the guy was obviously, which is terrible, struggling with his mental health. But he thought the solution to this was putting his mattress in the cupboard. What does this solve? How does this address anything? Yeah, honestly, I just really wanted to, you know, sleep closer to my array of Gucci leather jackets. Just makes me feel at home, you know. You should try therapy instead. They even brought this up on the podcast as well.
Abby and I are sleeping in separate beds.
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I'm a lonely gal. See, here's the thing. Say what you want. I am codependent. I went from my parents' house to being roommates to sleeping with you. And I shared a room in college. It wasn't like I ever like even
And you
had
and
my
your
own bedroom.
You and your brother used to like share a bed sometimes too.
Yeah. I hated being alone at night.
Growing up, my parents did not share a bedroom, really. They would
When
just
you were a
sleep
kid
separate.
even?
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that.
Them not sleeping together has nothing to do
Totally.
with the health of their marriage. It has nothing to do with that at all.
It can be a marker of like an unhealthy marriage, or it can just be like you have different schedules, you have different situations, which is our case.
I feel like me sleeping in a separate room, which is technically the closet, has actually been
We're
really
in
good.
the same room,
We're in the
but not in the same bed.
Like, how does that go down at a night time? So you both go, do you want to go to bed? Yeah, you both walk into the bedroom. Abby gets in the bed, and then Matt is like, right, see you later, love. And then just goes in the closet. Like, why? Why is it you don't have to do this? You're not Harry Potter. Can someone tell him? You don't need to do this. Now, moving on to our final kind of situation covering Abby and Matt, and I do want to make it clear that this one is a lot more serious. Now, Matt and Abby recently went through one of the most horrific things that, you know, a couple can go through. Abby went through a miscarriage, and this was going to be her first daughter. Obviously, they've got 2 boys. It was going to be their 3rd child. They revealed that they'd had a miscarriage on TikTok, so they posted this photo and said, "It is with a very heavy heart that we are about to share the loss of our baby girl, born far too soon. At a routine pregnancy announcement, our doctor could not find a heartbeat shortly after they sent us in for an ultrasound where the technician said words we will never forget. I'm so sorry, I do not have good news." And they basically just went on to like thank everyone for celebrating this precious life with us for the past 17 weeks. Now, no matter what you think of Matt and Abby, and no matter, you know, what you think of their dynamic, this is something that nobody should ever have to go through, and it's one of the most heartbreaking things ever. You know, thinking that you're going to have like another child into the world, one of the best gifts ever. It just makes you appreciate when, you know, if you do have a child, that it's just healthy, because that's just one of the most important things. Like, this is honestly horrific, and it changes people forever. This is not something that people go through and, you know, they're fine a year later. They will always remember this, and it's very hard to kind of cope with this. Obviously, therapy, I guess, and everything that kind of tries to help. Now, they also talked about this miscarriage on their podcast as well.
And she said, Abby, I don't have good news for you. And that was when it feels like there was an Abby pre that moment and an Abby post that moment.
So obviously you can see, you know, this, like she just said there's like a pre-Abby and a post-Abby. Again, I'm repeating myself, but no one should ever have to go through this, and it changes people. Like, they're not the same person they were prior to this occurring. Now, somehow people were criticising this clip, saying that like Matt was, you know, not saying anything, he wasn't comforting his wife during this, and you can argue these things, but also I think it's very harsh to criticise someone on, you know, how they grieve as well, and you don't know if they've done all of this off camera. If he talked a lot, he would have got criticised as well, so he's kind of in a lose-lose situation here. I honestly feel like he's just letting his wife speak about it and just letting her kind of say her truth, and he's kind of grieving more in silence. I just wanted to bring this up because, you know, we've talked about stuff where they've rightly been criticised. I feel like, you know, at this point they've wrongly been criticised for how they're like talking about this. People grieve and act in weird ways after something traumatic happens, and I don't think it's right for people from like not that headspace to say anything about that. Now, Abby would make TikToks basically every day talking about like how she's coping. This was probably just a thing for herself more than monetizing it. Some people have said that it was because, you know, she could have got money off it. Yes, she probably made a lot of money off those videos, but I feel like it's just something to get her up in the day, you know, kind of take her mind off how she's feeling. However, even their own audience started to get on their back during this stage, as Matt and Abby were actually clickbaiting things around this topic and what they were going through. Now, as you can see here, they obviously, you know, made the podcast having a miscarriage at 17 weeks pregnant, where they talked all through it. That's where we saw Abby crying, and they then like made another video saying answering our most asked questions. What was her name? You know, very deep. When you even see that, you're like, you know, that one's going to be a deep one. And then they've done another one where it's like, are you scared to get pregnant again? And, you know, obviously alluding to the fact that they've had a miscarriage. Now, this one is, I need to like tread lightly with this one, because obviously, like I've just made in my previous point, you don't really have a right to say how someone else should grieve. However, a lot of people have been getting on their back because of the way that they're kind of thumbnailing these. And one thing I will say, just speaking from a YouTube perspective, and I know how these kind of people think as well, if you look at the views of ones where they clickbait versus not clickbaiting, for instance, you know, obviously obviously the answering our most asked questions and putting like her crying and the questions in what was her name, the views on that are significantly higher than when they just do an informative podcast about, you know, people going through this that will actually help people. The view difference is not even in the same league, like, you know, it's 7 or 8 times bigger. And then when they do a podcast that isn't on the topic of, you know, what they've been through, it just doesn't do as well as when they do it again. Honestly, I would never say that I have a problem with this, because I just feel like they're obviously going through something that I've never experienced, and, you know, I don't feel comfortable criticizing them for this. I just wanted to make you aware of why people are criticizing them during this moment. Obviously, that's a very difficult topic to cover, but I did want to bring it up just to give, you know, the overall scope of this situation. But yeah, let me know what you think about Matt especially, but Matt and Abby's relationship in general. Do you think that it is authentic? Do you think that it kind of is just for the cameras? What do you think about Matt? Let me know your opinions, because I never knew anything about these people before researching for this, and I can understand how people kind of go down the rabbit hole, because it's a lot deeper than what it looks like on the surface. And hopefully you've enjoyed this style of video, Donuts. If you want to watch another video from me that is in the exact style of this, we actually did a full video on the downfall of James Charles, from him rising to fame and him being at his peak to now being one of the hatest influencers on the planet. If you want to go and watch that video, click right here. I'll see you over there. Bye bye, Donuts.
Cam Kirkham, baby.